Kent Marlowe, manslaughter. Sentenced to 10 years. First time in prison?
Yes.
Sir, to me.
Yes, sir.
What's up everybody, I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna.
And welcome to our bucket list channel, a channel in which we try to realize the goals and dreams that are on our bucket list. Today we're working on one of those goals, which is to watch every movie that was nominated at the Academy Award for Best Picture from 1927 till 2028, so 101 years. The movie we're talking about today is a movie we watched that was nominated at the third Academy Award in 1929, 1930, because they were doing that weird 2-year thing back then, and it is The Big House. So for those who don't know, before we get into talking about the movie, we're going to tell you how these review/discussion works. The first part is spoiler-free, which means that we're going to give you our thoughts about the movie without spoiling any of it. Well, without spoiling plot elements. And we're going to talk about the movie. So if you really want to know nothing, then, you know, this might be considered spoiler. But we're not going to spoil any plot element. And then in the second part of the review, we're going deep into story details. And so if you want to see the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, you can still watch part of the review, and then we'll warn you when you need to leave. Before we get into that discussion, though, a few interesting facts about the movie.
Oh yes, please tell me interesting facts about this movie.
First of all, this is a MGM movie, like a lot of movies we've been watching.
Yeah, I feel like they were the big shot back then.
Yeah. Released in June 1930. It was one of the first prison film and has had a tremendous influence in the genre.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so elements that you would watch this movie and think, oh, these elements seems familiar, you know. But this is one of the movie that started these trends, you know.
That's actually so interesting.
Directed by George Hill. He was inspired by a series of prison riots. This is a prison movie, by the way, if we didn't mention it before. Prison riots that happened in 1929, and decided to make a movie about it. One of the main actors, Chester Morris as Morgan. Now tell me, Anna, do you know who Chester Morris is?
We've seen him before, but I don't remember.
Yes, we've seen him in the movie Alibi.
Oh yes!
Where he plays Chick Williams.
Yes.
Yes, the boyfriend. You know.
Right, I remember now. I didn't recognize him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised.
Wallace Beery as Butch, and Robert Montgomery as Kent. Robert Montgomery, interesting detail, which you might not even understand that detail, because I don't know if you're familiar with Bewitched, the show.
No, I'm not.
Okay, so for those at home who are, Robert Montgomery is actually the father of Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha in Bewitched, very popular show. Mm-hmm. The movie was a success, was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, one of which is obviously Best Picture or Outstanding Production, as it was called back then. Another one was Best Actor for Wallace Beery, so Butch, not Chester Morris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Best Writing, it won. And Best Sound Recording, which it also won.
Oh, I think that is a good one. I felt like
sound recording?
Yeah, it was really well done in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, worth noting, we're still in the beginning of the sound era of movies, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, now let's get into a spoiler-free discussion. Anna, what did you think of this movie, top level?
Well, I have to say this is a bit of a difficult one, because in general, I do like the genre.
Prison movies.
Prison movies, yes. I feel like the story was really, interesting and captivating, but I did feel at some point that they made a certain switch into the storyline, like at some point it feels like there are two different stories kind of put together, and it doesn't connect that well to me. So it's like a tiny detail, or maybe, but it did make me feel for a good part of the movie. It made me wonder, like, wait, what is happening now? Like, you know?
I'm gonna echo most of your sentiment. It does feel like two movies put in one, or rather two storylines of put in one. Like, we can say it without really spoiling much. Like, it feels like we're following one character, and then it feels like we're following another character.
Exactly.
And then you're like, wait,
who's the main? What I'm saying.
Who's the main character? What am I supposed to? Like, who am I supposed to root for? Like, you kind of get confused, and then you kind of disconnect a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I found myself, by the end of the movie, thinking about it and not knowing really how I felt, you know? I was like, this wasn't a bad movie, but, like, it didn't leave its imprint on me, and maybe that was a big part of it, that I was kind of confused about even who the main character was, what the storyline that I was supposed to follow was. I mean, I understand that there's the general storyline of the story and the prison and these three main characters.
Yeah, the people inside.
But still, I felt like, this is kind of another movie at the middle of the movie, you know? And then it went back to this other thing, and I'm like, okay, now I'm confused, and I kind of care less because of that.
I would still recommend the movie, but beware that it's not my strongest recommendation out there. We've seen better ones. I think just for what you told me right now, that it's the movie that kind of set the genre, and for that reason alone, and for the fact that I do like this genre a lot, I would still recommend it. But beware, it's not necessarily the best one. It's it's interesting to watch for what it represents.
So if you're a fan of prison movies, I would definitely say watch it. If you're just looking for a movie to watch, you can do better.
Yeah.
Even if you're looking for an old movie to watch, we've reviewed other movies from the 1930s, from the 1920s, that were, in my opinion, better than this one. So Butch, the actor who plays Butch, was nominated for Best Actor. What do you think of that? Out of the three main characters that I named, would you say that he was the strongest in terms of performance?
I feel like he had a very kind of difficult character to play compared to the others, and he did a very good job at it.
Yeah, so his character was way more a roller coaster in terms of how he had to play the character. Sometimes he's angry, sometimes he's nice, and while Montgomery's character is very one-dimensional. Like, not one-dimensional in terms of his psyche, but one-dimensional in terms of the way he has to be played. Right. Throughout the whole movie, he's played the same way.
Yeah, he's the same way all the time.
Morgan kind of changed a little bit, but even then, it's linked with the complaint that we had before, which I think that his character, just like the movie, is kind of two different characters.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about it more when we get into spoilers, but even though Chester Morris is a great actor, I loved him in Alibi, and here he was great too. I still feel like his character could have been written better. And so Butch was probably the strongest of the three. Like you said, tepid recommendation, and if you like prison movie, I would recommend, but if you don't, then move on to the next movie. And for those of you who don't want to get spoiled, maybe you should also move on to the next video from us, because we're now entering spoiler territory. First, let's get into it. Morgan, Chester Morris's character, escapes from prison, and I feel like from that point on, the movie takes a turn.
Yeah. To then kind of turn back.
Turn back, yes. And so he's out of jail for a little while, and
we follow him around.
And I'm not sure. I was
because
watching that
up until that point where he escapes from prison, you kind of feel like
This is Kent's story, Montgomery's character.
Montgomery's character, exactly. He's the brother of this girl.
Yeah.
And we follow him, like he's the one who gets into prison, and it's through him that we meet the other characters.
Yeah.
But then Chest Morris's character escapes from prison, and then we follow him, and we completely abandon
Kent
and everything that happens in the prison.
At first, I was like, oh, so this is the story of this guy who, like, is not the criminal type, you know. He was in a car accident because he was drunk and then was sent to prison, but he's not like a murderer or a robber like Morgan is. And so he's not the criminal type, but he's put into a jail cell with these two criminal Butch and Morgan. And so you kind of think like, oh, so this is the story of how he managed with that, you know, like he's scared, he doesn't know what to do. He talks down on them because you're like, oh, you guys are criminal, I don't want to be friends with you. But still, he's in danger. So you think that's the story they're telling. And then
exactly.
When Morgan escapes, you're like, wait, no. So now we totally forget about Kent, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't come back until like
the very end.
The third act of the movie.
Yeah.
And now it's all about Morgan until the end. And Morgan is the hero. We end the movie with Morgan. And he's out of jail, and then he makes friends with the sister of Kent and the family of Kent, and he gets a job. And I'm like, wait, this is another movie, you know? And then just like that, he gets arrested again. You know, there's no... Like, if
we don't know how exactly did he get caught, who tipped the police, because they obviously came knowing that he would be there.
Mm-hmm. So if it was like a story about him in jail and then him escaping and trying to stay away from the police until stay away from the police while rebuilding his life, you know, because he fell in love with this girl. That's a story, you know, that's a story that makes sense. But here we follow him out of jail, and then he's back in jail, and then he's out of, like, I was so confused. It's just, I mean, the switch in his psyche, like, he becomes a good guy.
Yeah.
Automatically, you know? And we don't see the build-up to that.
Yeah, that's true.
You can kind of believe it, he falls in love, so he becomes a good guy, but you need to show it more.
Yeah, it needs to have more emotion, more depth. Yeah,
exactly. But he just becomes a good guy, and then when he's back in jail, he doesn't want to hang out with Butch anymore. He doesn't want to...
Yeah, he wants to stay clean so that he'd get released and go back to his girl.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
And so, I feel like there's a good story there. The missing part was execution. The execution was weird.
Or rather, I feel like there are like maybe 2 or 3 good stories there.
Yeah.
But they don't really go well together.
But they could have, what I'm saying is they could have been matched together if the execution was better. But it didn't. It felt jarring to see these 3 different stories put together. But yeah, I mean, again, it wasn't a bad movie. You know, I left it thinking just like, whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. It was a okay movie. I watched it. I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't also like fawning on it. So, like I said, if you like prison movies, I recommend, because it's the beginning of a lot of trope for the genre. If you don't, you can find a better movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think for me it was a very interesting movie to watch. I wish it was better done. But it was still interesting enough.
Yeah. And prison movies are always, like, at least, you know, interesting.
Yeah, like they kind of keep you, you know, like on the edge.
The setting is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it for us today. If you guys liked our conversation, be sure to hit the like button below. Hit the subscribe button if you want to come back to this channel to see us review more movies or do other stuff that are on our bucket list. Also hit that notification bell to be notified when those video drops. Comment in the comment section below. Have you seen The Big House, and did you like it? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? Debate down there. Let us know, and have a nice day.